Dr. Luskin, why did you decide to support forgiveness theoretically?
You know, it's those kind of questions are never simple because they, I mean, you're looking at our whole life. Like, what is it that makes someone interested in something or not? I had a long-standing interest in spiritual qualities. I've had a long meditation practice, so the forgiveness was resonant with that. Probably the precipitating event that got me interested in forgiveness was that I couldn't do it, that I got very badly hurt and I was a mess. And, you know, the stuff that I knew didn't work. And it was only when someone suggested to me, you know, Fred, you're probably just going to have to forgive that. And that had never entered my mind. Like, I was arguing with it and upset with it, and I was a bitch. And I was. And I kept on expecting life to be different and all sorts of stuff. And when somebody said, you know, you're just going to have to forgive that, I had never really understood that you could just let it go. Like you could just remove it from the mind body. And that's what I did. And then the ways that I removed it turned into the work that I started to do. And then that work became the Stanford Forgiveness Project.
Your experience with your friend that hurt you was 13 years ago or more than that?
You know, the crucial piece of all this, which I assume you're using this to help people, is it doesn't matter what the content is. It doesn't matter whether it's a friend or a parent or a lover or a neighbor or yourself. None of that matters. What matters is how I processed what happened.
Okay.
And that processing messed me up.
Mm-hmm.
And what forgiveness does is you change your processing. So one of the really large obstacles is people get so attached to their content and to the people and their story that they completely forget how much they're contributing.
Okay.
And the whole empowerment is shifting people back to their own attitudes, thoughts, heart, you know, just like you don't have to be a victim is the key ingredient.
Thank you, Dr. Fred.
Is there any scientific evidence to support the physical health and disease prevention benefits of forgiveness?
I mean, there's some evidence. What evidence there is supports the physical health benefits, but it's not an enormous amount of evidence. I mean, with things like forgiveness and compassion and love, there hasn't been a lot of science around it. I mean, it's a neglected field. So there is some evidence that certainly forgiveness reduces stress, which has a health benefit. It reduces some of the strain on the nervous system and the heart. So that has some health benefit. It can release depression. So that has health benefits. And it can let's say, attenuate the perception of pain when you're not all aggrieved about other things. So, yes, there are implications for physical health, but, it's not like you could say there's 40 studies, with great controls and that, yes, you want to take 2 of these and it'll cure you of something. The biggest way of describing this would be the term allostatic load is kind of the full impact of all the stresses and impingements on you. And forgiveness clearly lowers some of that, so the body and the mind have less to grapple with.
Okay. Thank you, Doctor. Okay. What factors influence a person's ability to forgive someone who has hurt them?
Older people have an easier time forgiving than younger people, generally because, like, if they're 60 plus years of age, they realize they don't have as much time to keep this crap going as younger people. Narcissism is a tremendous impediment to forgiveness because narcissists lack empathy and they revolve their attention around themselves. So that would be a real challenge. An inability to grieve would be an impediment to forgiveness because you have to be able to feel your suffering and you have to be able to acknowledge your suffering before you can release it. Gratitude seems to make forgiveness easier, like a generally more thank you approach to life. And the biggest thing that I have seen in terms of like making people more open to it is some people, after a while, they recognize that they have to do something to change, that the past is not going to change, that somebody may not apologize to them or may not make things right. And they recognize that their constant argument with their life is hurting them. And so at that point, they think, ooh, okay, I need to do something different. And that's when forgiveness starts to bubble its way up in them.
There is a phrase in your book that caught my attention a lot. To forgive is to let go of hope for a better past. Can you tell us about it?
I mean, that's not my definition. That was actually started by a woman whose child was murdered. And she made a bumper sticker out of it as part of her healing. Forgiveness is giving up all hope for a better past. What that means is most of the energy we spend that is unforgiveness is saying that the way life emerged was not the way it should have emerged, that somehow I deserved a better past or present, and that is a corrosive waste of our time. Now, short term, in terms of grief, it's actually quite helpful to go through that process of saying, wow, this really was terrible. It hurt like hell. I wish it had been different. I was expecting something different. And the grieving process allows us to integrate the new information about how life actually unfolded with the way we wanted. And that's why grieving is so difficult, because we're integrating information that forces us to have new models. When that is stalled and we continue to say, the past is wrong, people are wrong, this is wrong. That's when unforgiveness becomes a problem, and forgiveness is releasing that by saying, hey, you know, what is, I better get with the program and live where life actually is.
Cuéntale de Dani.
She wants me to tell you that her son, 18 years old, in 2014, committed suicide.
My son.
Okay. And that was something that make her understand that after she has been through that episode, she had to teach how she can survive to that loss.
Yeah.
And then she started to help other people that has been through that any loss, especially, you know, mothers that has that lose a son or a daughter, and started working with forgiveness. Okay, so she wanted me to tell you that she lost her son.
It's unfortunate how much suffering can push us sometimes to be of help to this world. It's unfortunate that we wait till we suffer, and it's unfortunate how much we suffer. And then sometimes the benefit that we get from what happened to us is really the only way forward, because there's so much loss in life and there's so much suffering that, you know, when you have your own and you try to help others, you just realize how much there is. It's like this never-ending well of loss and suffering. And thankfully, some of us can turn that into something of use to other people. Most people don't have dramatic things to forgive, but everybody has the need to forgive in their world. So, you know, your sisters, I'm sure there's stuff you've each done that has pissed each other off. You need to forgive to keep the relationship. If you're married, you can guarantee that you and your partner will piss each other off. And you need forgiveness to keep the bond intact. You can guarantee that you're going to do stuff to hurt other people. You can guarantee it. So you need to have some ability to forgive yourself, and you can guarantee that other people are going to hurt you. And you need this skill of forgiveness. It's not primarily for the big disasters in life. It's more the lubricant of our close relationships and our way of being in the world, so we don't become bitter. That it's so essential. And so, Maria, your testimony that you forgave something larger, it's not its horror and it's like, thank God, not as common, but it's an example of, you know, the need is to forgive what's on our plate. Okay. And those people who don't have such a terrible thing on their plate, they still are in a world where people will hurt each other. Mm-hmm. And, you know, decades ago, people used to ask me, how do you forgive the worst stuff and Adolf Hitler and all this other stuff? And I would tell them, thankfully, the really awful things don't happen that often.
Mhm.
But things happen all the time that when we practice forgiveness, we become better at it,
Mhm.
thankfully.
What do you think about why the people need to forgive?
Okay. So Desmond Tutu has provided the best answer to that. Without forgiveness, there is no future.
Well,
what that means is without forgiveness, you're still in the past. And you're arguing about the past and you're lamenting the past. And if you're not careful, you don't move up. So when you're upset with your partner for cheating on you 5 years ago, you're still living 5 years ago. So there's no future.
Mhm.
If your tribe or group was hurt by another tribe or group 75 years ago, you're still stuck 75 years ago. Your group is stuck. So you're not able to move into the present or future. That was the brilliance of Desmond Tutu's. Without forgiveness, there is no future. You're just living in the past.
Do you think that you can learn to forgive any situation in life?
Well, that's the takeaway. That's the important resolution of the science. That there are a handful of us, me and a couple other people, who have actually done science on this and shown that you can teach people to forgive and that they can use the forgiveness. So I've taught people who have had their children murdered to forgive. I've taught people, like after the attacks on the World Trade Center, to forgive. But I've also taught people who, somebody cheated them after $20. So but the takeaway from all the science and all of the research is it's a teachable skill. And that's the crucial element, that this is teachable and learnable.
For me, forgiving can be applied in 3 lines, okay? Self-forgiveness, forgiveness for the others, and forgiveness as a healing of the life story, okay? What do you think about this?
I mean, the people who have, written about that, they refer to the 5 needs of forgiveness. Forgiveness of self, forgiveness of other, forgiveness of God, existence, nature, the need to ask for forgiveness, and the need to grant forgiveness. Those are the categories. I do believe that we are capable of forgiving patterns in families or groups. So if you belong to a group of people whose identity is, I hate that group, or you belong to a family where everybody hates grandma or something, you can cleanse the family transmission by your own forgiveness. So that story stops with you. That I see. But the essential nature of forgiveness is its present centeredness, which is right now. I am releasing or have released any bitterness or resentment or self-pity that I hold for something that happened, and I'm releasing it so I can move ahead free of it.
Okay.
It's a moment's experience that you reproduce over and over. So at this moment, I'm clean, and at that moment, I'm clean, and 10 moments from now, I will be clean. And if I'm not clean, then I will practice forgiveness again to become clean.
When you die, how would you like to be remembered?
Interesting. I mean, I would hope that, that I contributed to this world in my time here, that people could depend on me, to be reliable and consistent, and that, somehow they would attest to the fact that I learned some things over this life that maybe made me a better person than I was when I started out. But we're all so temporary here, so temporary, that, like that old expression, whatever you're going to do here, you better do now, because you don't know how much future you have.
Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you for your work, for forgiveness.
I admire you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Doctor, thank you very much. Frederic, thank you very much. Thank you for your time, for your kindness. And hopefully we can contact you again and keep helping other people.
And good luck to you both. It was a pleasure to meet you both.